chased into my own apartment. I, 24 female, used to live alone in the downtown area in my city, and it's known to not be the safest place in general, let alone for a single female. My building had gated parking and a side entry gate with a code for people with pets that I used frequently with my 2 dogs. Multiple times daily as well as at night, I had to take the pups out of the gated area and walk a small ways to a grassy area for them to use the bathroom. On weekends, the downtown is a popular place for drinking and bar hopping, so it was busy often. I had the occasional intoxicated person/group of people ask to pet them, but usually I just say they're not friendly and continue on with my night. It's a lie, my dogs are the friendliest things ever. Important. One late weekday night, it was a ghost town. The dogs were in a routine though, and I had to take them out. I always had mace and keys on me. This night in particular though, I was approached by a disheveled middle-aged man who was acting a little odd but seemingly just wanted money for some food. When I said I didn't have money, he asked if I could take him to one of the bars and buy him a drink. Again, I said I didn't have my wallet on me, and he said, "I can wait down here while you go get it." At this point I had grown pretty uncomfortable and saw that my dogs' hairs on the back of their necks were raised. He eventually gave up after I declined and walked off, so I let my dogs finish their business and went inside. A few days passed and I hadn't seen this man again, so I relaxed a little. I took my dogs out that night as I always do, but this time I could tell they were on edge. I lazily left the side gate to my apartment propped open so I wouldn't have to type in the code to get back in. Then they perk up as they hear something to my left, and immediately their hairs stand up again, and all I can hear is someone quickly approaching me yelling obscenities. The only one I could make out was, "Those dogs won't protect you now, bitch," from a familiar voice. I ran back through the gate with my 2 dogs, not even bothering to look behind me until I got in and shut it. As I see him pass, he was swinging around a large tree limb. The same man from a few nights before. I safely made it upstairs with the pups. I lived on the top floor, but I could still hear him screaming, so I look out the window and see him pacing up and down the road until he stops and looks up into my window. Never saw him again after that. Something is calling me. So for the past 5 years I've felt this odd calling that something wants me to meet it in the deep woods, preferably something like a mountainous region or with a deep forest, and at night. Its calling almost feels like a magnetic pull, and for the past couple of years I've avoided following it, until now. I'm currently on vacation in the Smokies and the pull is incredibly strong. It almost feels like whatever it is wants me deep in, and doesn't want me to let go. It's extremely possessive. Followed down a dark country road. Last year, I, 18F, was living in a very rural town in the middle of the mountains. Most small western towns only have one road that goes into the big city. Our road in particular was about 50 miles of empty highway, surrounded only by cliffs, fields, and occasionally a farm. At the very entrance to this road, once you enter the city, is a huge truck stop/gas station that is always packed. My mom and I were going back home after a midnight showing of whatever movie we had decided to see, and, as per usual, we stopped to fill up on gas and get a drink for the long drive. As we were leaving, I vaguely noticed a dingy older Jeep pull out the same time we did, but of course, I didn't take much notice of it. It wasn't weird that someone would be leaving the same time as us. As we started down the pitch-black road, the Jeep kept a steady pace behind us, again not weird, until it came flying up past us before disappearing behind a hill. Mom and I just scoffed. We were going 60, but when people knew the roads well, they often drove them at close to 100, even at night. Eventually, we came up to the Jeep from before. It was pulled over, but the back half of the vehicle was in the road, and what was clearly a man's arm was waving out the window, gesturing for us to pull over. Of course, we pass it. The man flies past us once more and pulls over again. He does this once more, and my mom and I begin to get very nervous. After passing him for the 3rd time, he flies up and begins tailgating us. He's driving so close that we can't see his headlights in the rear view mirror, and he's honking his horn every so often, waving his arm for us to pull over. He carries on with this for 30 minutes. Mom and I are terrified. She's white-knuckling the wheel. I'm holding a pocket knife to make myself feel better. I swore at my mom for the first time that night, begging her, "Don't you fucking dare pull over." If you've ever seen the movie Rest Stop, that is all that was going through my mind. The road is a dead zone for service, so we couldn't call the police or anyone. The picture of us dead or worse on the side of the empty road was the only thing I could think about. But, as soon as it had started, it ended. The man slammed on his brakes, turned around, and went back. The ride home was silent and I ended up sleeping in my mom's room out of fear. The next morning we had a discussion and came to the conclusion he had seen two lone women traveling at night and thought we'd be easy pickings, which he would have been right. Some people suggest that he had seen us drop money or a receipt at the gas station and wanted to be a good Samaritan. I think that's ridiculous. Nobody following two women home in such an aggressive manner has good intentions. We moved out of town a few months later for unrelated reasons, but just before we did, the same car was reported following a group of 4 men on their way to work. So, maybe he just likes to scare people. Either way, that night was easily one of the scariest of my life.